Welcome to China Manufacturing Decoded from Sofeast, the podcast where we take you through the major news and topics facing importers and manufacturers in China and Asia today.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of our podcast, the China Manufacturing Decoded podcast. And this week, we're going to talk about e-commerce because in many ways, 2020 and 2021 have been the years of e-commerce, and they represent a growing portion of the goods sold. They're moving from brick and mortar stores to a lot to Amazon, it seems. And of course, we're going to talk about it today, and to a bunch of other channels. And with me today to discuss it is Marshall Taplits, who was on the show, I think 4 or 5 episodes ago. And we talked about the disruptions to logistics, especially on the US side. And that was actually quite a popular episode. And Marshall used to be an Amazon seller and doing fulfillment by Amazon and listing his products on Amazon like so many other people. And that's when he was in Shenzhen. Now he's back in the US. He's on the East Coast, and he does fulfillment for e-commerce companies. So he still very much has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I always like to talk to him about what's going on. So hi, Marshall. How are you doing?
How are you, Renad? Thank you for the introduction and having me back on.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with trend number one. Is the share of products sold in e-commerce. Has it been going up or down? I think that's an easy one, right?
It's definitely going up.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because and I'm not exactly sure how this happened. I thought there would be more of a shortage, throughout the entire supply chain. But what I'm finding is if you go to the stores, let's say you want to go get a sports jacket, and they don't have any of the sizes. They have like 136. And that's it. But if you go on Amazon or on e-commerce, even independent companies that don't even sell on Amazon, there's plenty of stock to buy online. I know this because my sister just got married, and I bought a suit online because they didn't have any in the stores. So I think it's e-commerce is growing like it always grows, but it's also growing this year because of the shortages in the real stores.
Right. So you're saying that it is in stock in the US, but maybe only in 1 or 2 warehouses in the US somewhere, but you still can get it within 2, 3, 4, 5 days, right? So rather than being everywhere in every store, every one of the 200 different stores of the same brand, which arguably is of course more of a challenge, right? To keep it stocked across so many stores. So
and I'll give you an example. I needed to buy a pair of headphones, a specific type, and I went, to Best Buy's website, and they had none in the entire country. But if you go on Amazon or if you go on, Newegg or any of the online sites, there's plenty of stock. And even for the brand name things that, if Amazon, for example, goes out of stock, it's like back in stock in a few days. So something's definitely working on the e-commerce specific channels that is broken still in the off channel, in the stores and brick and mortar. And, it's not something I was expecting, actually. I was expecting more of across the board shortages, but that's not what we're seeing.
Correct. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And it's not something that you buy for delivery like 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, fulfilled. Drop shipped from China or wherever, right? It's available in a few days.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm talking about available like usual, just maybe a few day delay on the shipping just due to the general shipping slowdown. But I also heard that, Black Friday and Cyber Monday were, less, was it less revenue? I forget exactly, but it was down from, the all time highs of the previous years. And so, that's kind of interesting. But again, I think it just goes back to the stock levels. If more stock was available, the numbers would be higher.
I would guess so. Yeah, I don't think Americans are getting tired of these kinds of monsters of, let's buy a lot in one day and who cares about the supply chain behind it? It's really monsters, right? But anyway, think about toy suppliers. Most of the sales done in 1 month for the whole year. I mean, that's just that's crazy. Okay, so we're talking about trend number one, growth, and we can see that a lot of the traditionally brick and mortar stores are maybe not advertising, but they make it very clear that you can also buy on their website, right? So they make it easy for you to go on their website and maybe to pick up in their store, or they're trying to do something a little bit smart here, but they are trying to make it easier to buy online, right? So obviously the share of e-commerce is not going to go down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Like for example, Kohl's here, which is I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically a department store. It's much smaller than a Macy's, but it's got a lot of clothes. It's got home furnishings, shoes for the kids. It's a good place and it's pretty inexpensive overall. They have a huge online to store program. For example, when my mom wants to buy my kids or her grandkids clothes, she orders them online, and then I go pick them up at the Kohl's by me. So she actually says, I want to order it to this Kohl's. They've also teamed up with Amazon to be an Amazon drop-off center. So if you need to return something to Amazon, you can bring it to Kohl's. So now they got you in the door, and the chances of you not buying something are pretty slim. This leveraging of your brick and mortar to bring in more e-commerce and to, expand with partnerships is definitely a trend. The less inventory and the less they can have, in the stores, the better for them, right? So it is playing out. But a lot of the retailers, you don't see it. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen any of the other department stores, bringing it to that level yet. But like in Best Buy, for example, they don't have a lot in stock. They just have one model to show you, and then they order it online for delivery.
It's a showroom. It's just a showroom.
Or a showroom, right? So all different retailers are handling it differently, but for those that already have that brick and mortar presence, they're trying to grow it. And then other companies like Amazon are starting brick and mortar, right? They're opening their was it Pay and Go or whatever the quick downtown 7-Eleven type markets are, where you can get food quickly and you don't need to even check out. You just walk out. So there's all these different hybrids of online and brick and mortar that are happening now.
Right. And just to close on this trend number one, obviously when people are staying home because there was a lockdown or whatever, or maybe they were afraid of going to public places. Well, everybody kind of had to pull the credit card and start ordering certain things online, right? So people started to take the habit, I would guess.
Absolutely.
That only makes sense. Trend number two is Amazon is, by far the main channel for companies to sell their products online. Now, there's a word that I've been reading a lot about, in the past, 6 to 12 months, is trying to go omnichannel. And probably more like 2 or 3 years, probably, but I keep seeing it. People try to diversify instead of just having their account in Amazon, which who knows might get closed, might so whatever might happen, it's not their platform, right? So they're just renting it somewhere where they have very little control. They can be kicked out anytime. So they want to diversify. They want to maybe have their own website on Shopify or on WooCommerce or something of the sort. They try to find their own customers, maybe doing some Facebook or Instagram advertising for B2B products, B2C products, typically, and so on and so forth. Maybe trying to sell a little bit on eBay. So do you see a lot of e-commerce sellers trying to do that?
I think not everybody, but a lot of sellers have been trying to do that. And, you've heard multi-channel, omnichannel, there's all these different terms, but at the end of the day, it just means not being dependent on just Amazon. I think that it's been a little underwhelming, the success that people have had off Amazon. I know between myself and my friends, in general, what I'm seeing in our customers that ship it done, what we're seeing is just the Amazon. Let's say they're selling 100 a day on Amazon. Maybe they're selling 6 a day on everything else combined. And I think it's, at the end of the day, Amazon is a search engine, for people who are ready to buy, just like Google is a search engine for people who are looking for information. And, nothing can replace that.
Right. Powerful. It's so powerful.
It's so powerful, the ability just to bring buyers to you that are already in the buy status, right? Ready to buy. So when you're doing Google AdWords, it's hard to find out what are the words where they're just researching and what are the words that they're, ready to buy. But Amazon, it's all ready to buy. So from that perspective, it's much less efficient to advertise on Google and advertise on Facebook and things like that, because you're, I don't want to say shooting in the wind, but you're building an audience and then shooting messages to them. But it's not like everyone's in that same ready to buy status that they went to Amazon and just searched for it. So it's harder than most people thought to do this. But nonetheless, if you're in it for the long term, a growing Shopify site, for example, is really an asset that your company can build. And we've seen a few of our customers that started on Shopify and now also sell on Amazon. And we've seen a few that only sell on Shopify, but they've been doing it for like 5 or 6 years, and they've built up, a presence. So I guess it's like anything else. You just have to invest in it and do it over time. But, it's really important to not just be too dependent on Amazon, even though it's so easy to be, because, they're charging more and more. They're competing, with their own sellers. It's a very ugly situation there.
Right. Oh, it is. Yes. And just to make sure, I've never sold anything on Amazon or anything like that. So, but when you sell something fulfilled by Amazon, or maybe sold on Amazon, but you fulfill yourself, do you get the email address of the customers? Can you keep, doing a little bit of a newsletter and keep them aware maybe of your next version of your product or some complementary products and things like that? Or is it like you have nothing?
This is the issue when you have your own site, like a Shopify site, and I don't mean to push Shopify, but I mean, I've used it. It works. It's the one, it's probably the best platform now that I know.
Yeah.
But I have no relationship with them. It's just what I say. But yeah, I mean, when you have a Shopify site, you get the customers' full information. They signed up for your newsletter, and now you can keep in touch with them and all these things. You can even go into Facebook and build a lookalike audience, based on your email list. But with Amazon, it's very clear that they're Amazon's customers, not yours. So if you're doing FBA, which is when Amazon fulfills, you don't get anything because you don't need it. And an email address, it has to all emails have to go through their system, and they don't give you the customer's email address. They only give you like a proxy, random email address that then forwards to the customer. So you really do own nothing. And even with FBM, where you fulfill through your own methods, fulfilled by merchant, you still get a very little bit of information. I mean, you get the address because you need it, but there's all sorts of verbiage, not to use it for anything else. and you don't get the email and you don't get the phone number, so you're really left with nothing other than the sale. It's a much more transactional relationship than if you can build up a database of your own customers over time.
Right. And fulfilled by merchant, FBM, I guess, is a lot of what you do in Ship It Done. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do prep for FBA, so we will, and also FBM. So we're agnostic. A lot of our customers bounce between the two depending on the supply chain as well. So a lot of our customers would like to be in stock with FBA all the time. But for example, now it's close to Christmas. We have a few customers that are selling Christmas specific things. They happen to be selling very well on FBM. Maybe they'll sell even better on FBA, but they're going to run out of stock regardless. And so why pay for it to go into FBA, and why pay for all the extra, charges? They're just running it with us through FBM.
So I'm asking that because it's related to the next point about actually Amazon trying to collect more margin. So you say that some customers bounce between fulfilling themselves. So meaning that instead of getting everything sent to the fulfillment center of Amazon, and then Amazon taking a bigger cut of the amount of the sale, but then keeping in inventory and doing the shipment and things like that, they might want to work with a company like yours, or maybe they do it themselves in their garage, right? But let's say they have to take care of the warehousing and the shipment and all these things. So as a general rule of thumb, which one is cheaper, or what actually makes one more interesting than the other?
Well, I think Amazon's done a good job of covering up the overall cost. So like, for example, if you're selling something for $100, they'll charge you 15%, which is their fee that they get regardless of whether you're selling FBM and FBA or FBA. So, take the 15% off the top regardless. But, then they give you this one cost for fulfillment fees, regardless of where it is in the country. So, let's say they say it's $8 to ship it. Somebody like us, Ship It Done, or any other warehouse, it may be a little more expensive because you have to cover the actual shipping costs. But what you're saving is, one, the cost of sending the product into Amazon. Two, the exorbitant storage costs, especially during the October, November, and December. And also, if you have any returns, Amazon charges you the same outgoing fulfillment fee as they charge you for the outgoing. So the inbound is the same price as the outgoing, which is, really, really expensive for a return. They just consider it the same. So, when you look at it as a total, there's no doubt in my mind that it's cheaper through, a separate warehouse. But again, you can't deny that FBA sells better. Amazon users like the Prime label. So, we get
I see.
A lot of customers that are starting off small, and they'll just put their stuff into FBA, but then they start having limits of how much they can put that they hit, and they got another shipment from China coming, and they kind of need somewhere to put it until their storage limits go down, or storage limits are able to send in more. So in this case, they're kind of stuck. So they put it with us or somebody like us to stage it, for Amazon. And so Amazon's storage limits are weird now. It's a total account storage limit. So you may have a new product that you want to introduce, but you don't have any storage available because something you already sent in is not selling that well. So now what do? Right? You may as well put it on as FBM and get it going. Right? There's no need to. If you can't send it into Amazon to sell an FBA, why just let it sit there in the storage? So people are tiptoeing into FBM for various reasons, and that's one of them.
Right.
So it really depends on the customer. A lot of customers also we have some customers that are selling some really nice, expensive things, that cost like $100 to $200, and they just like that the product is able to be accessed. They don't want it in Amazon. They don't trust Amazon with these things. They only sell FBM so that, if there's any issue, we can immediately address it with the stock in our warehouse. So that's another reason why some people may like FBM.
Right. So That's interesting because one might think, Amazon is, well, I mean, the DNA is to be a retailer, and it's all about being ruthlessly efficient, right? And they have such a depth of expertise, but also such a width of capabilities that they've got to be much more efficient than people managing little warehouses here and there and doing this and doing that and so on. So what you just described tells me they're making a killing now on FBA, right?
They really are, and they just raised their prices again. And there is inflation and things are getting more expensive, but it's like, they're really pushing it. I mean, they're up to like 30 something percent now of the average revenue that they're taking in one form or another, which is up from 21%, something I read, a few months ago. So it's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow. And that from a company that always got investors excited, never turned a profit, always reinvested everything. And as a result, never really paid tax, and now is starting to become more of a cash cow, right? But at the same time, of course, investing very heavily in some other aspects of their business that they want to develop. But now, what you're telling me really screams that, hey, Amazon sees e-commerce as more of a cash cow now, at least in the US. Okay. They're also extending their capabilities, right? So we I guess you read about that also. They have a fleet of planes now that is starting to it's not as big as UPS or FedEx, but give them another 5 years or 10 years, it might be bigger. They have warehouses, of course, everywhere. They who knows, maybe they will operate a few container ships. Or maybe they already started. I mean, they're really extending their capabilities, right? And they have all these independent workers in the US delivering to the last mile with their little trucks, right? So they're becoming another UPS. Or I mean, is that what's happening?
I would say that they're even more than a UPS, because it's this entire logistics presence specifically for their company, and then that becomes a competitive advantage itself. So, I mean, a few years ago, Amazon already started shipping from China for Chinese sellers. I think it's like the Dragon program or something. I forget exactly, but yeah, I mean, they've been shipping container ships specifically for Amazon sellers right into the warehouses already for a couple of years. And domestically, they've already bought domestically in the US. They've already bought lots of planes and their own last mile delivery systems, exactly like you said. But what I read the other day is that now Amazon is actually buying container vessels and not even just container vessels, but regular vessels that can transport goods, and they're setting up their own intercontinental shipping route. So not only are they a UPS, but they're also a Maersk for themselves. So I think this is kind of, I don't want to say dangerous, but it's certainly stepping up the game in terms of now all the smaller sellers, you either have to pay these crazy, shipping rates that are going on right now, if you can even get your product on a container. But Amazon is sailing, on their own ships. And I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of time before, you have to pay Amazon to get it across the pond in order to get it into an Amazon warehouse. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, if you remember on our last episode we did, we started talking about how some companies were refurbishing, ships to start moving product on their own. But it seems like Amazon is starting to institutionalize this.
Wow. Yeah.
To the point of, I wonder, if when the market comes back into some sort of equilibrium in the shipping world, it seems like Amazon has identified that this is a weak spot in their chain, and it seems like they're looking to fix this permanently on their own behalf.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Okay. let's get to another one. A major trend that on our side, even we have noticed. So you see, a number of our clients have been looking for some kind of claim that their products are eco-friendly, right? So let's say, oh, can we get something? Maybe the enclosure in plastic is recycled. Maybe some of the, it's a bioplastic or whatever, right? So maybe the packaging, very often it ends up being just the packaging. Hey, the packaging is cool and it is reusable. It's kind of its own little bag that you can reuse so you don't throw it away. Or, hey, there's no more plastic, these kinds of things. I guess you've seen that, right? So it's a way for them, I guess, to show some kind of differentiation in the listings, just because there's too many listings.
Yeah, it's hard because obviously everyone wants to be eco-friendly, but with Amazon, it's really about the keyword relevance, right? So if somebody types in, that they want a ruler, and an eco-friendly ruler is more expensive, over time that listing is going to get lower and lower in the search engines for the simple reason that it converts, lower.
Yeah.
And it's not that people don't want the eco-friendly, so they're not buying it. It's just more expensive, so they're not buying it. So it's unfortunately a negative, feedback loop where the cheapest kind of rises to the top. So, until we get people who are actually searching for these things, like searching for eco-friendly ruler, or something like that, then, I'm afraid it's just a good try. But that doesn't mean you can't have a niche. I mean, just because you're not the number one ruler seller doesn't mean you don't sell a lot of rulers, even if you're on the end of second page. So, I wouldn't discourage somebody for, to try to make their product eco-friendly if it really makes sense and people are looking for an eco-friendly version of that product. But if it's just taking a regular product and spending more for recycled plastic, I'm not saying it's not good for the environment, but I don't think it's that great, for business on Amazon.
Right. Well, actually, I mean, if they use regrinded plastic, or maybe 50% regrinded, 50% margin, it should be cheaper actually. And yeah, in a lot of cases, they're trying to find something that doesn't increase the cost, but then they still want the same physical properties and things like that, and they don't want to pay for testing the performance and durability and so on, which is another cost. So you go around and around. And what I would say is, if you want to make a ruler that's eco-friendly, first don't have it made in China.
No, I mean, people are also, refurbishing names of things. So like years ago when I was selling on Amazon, I mean, if the product had plastic, it was cheaper for recycled plastic. It wasn't as clear. It wasn't, who knows what it's from. But if you wanted new plastic, it costs more. So I wonder if people are just saying like, oh, recycled plastic, and then, which is actually worse, and then spinning it as something positive, because the word recycled.
There might be some, right. But the real trend here is, I guess, too many listings, and people need to differentiate themselves. So, and I guess we'll see more people actually developing their own version of a successful product, a little bit different by following what the commenters said, complained about, or maybe suggested, and trying to find their own little niche in these big listings, right? Yeah.
No, absolutely. And also, if you're off Amazon and if you've, managed to have a target market that does care, specifically about these eco-friendly products, you can, as you're selling on Shopify, and collect these emails and send, all sorts of information and keep people interested in your new products. So there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do, but yeah, I mean, reading the comments on or the reviews on the different listings and seeing, if you can modify the product to be more suitable for what people are complaining about. I mean, these are all great things, to do.
Right.
General.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Another one is more of a, maybe a little bit tongue in cheek. I don't know. For example, I go on the Apple website, and then they say, just pull out your iPhone and look at this, and you will see it in augmented reality, and you will see it. You will have maybe a better idea about what it's like have you seen a lot of use of augmented reality on e-commerce websites? Because it might be a way, of just making it more real, because that's the weakness of e-commerce. Some products, you see a photo of it, but maybe it doesn't look as appealing as actually seeing it and maybe holding it in your hand in a store, right?
Right. So so I would say that in general, this is not really happening that much, but there are some retailers, like for example, I don't want to say a specific name because I don't know. I'll say a few, but it's one of these, whether it's Home Depot or Lowe's or, some furniture store that I've bought furniture in, or maybe it was IKEA. But the point is that you can pick an item from their store, and then you take a picture of your room, and then it puts the table, for example, in your living room, and it actually, it does do the dimensions. So that, it detects what the dimensions of the room are, and then it does proportionally say, yeah, this is how it's going to look.
Might be IKEA. Yeah, I saw IKEA was doing something like that. Maybe even with their catalog, you have their catalog, and then I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'm just realizing it was the Amazon app that I used.
Wow! Yes.
But I know that these IKEAs and some of these other retailers are doing it. So. I mean, I'll be the first person, who would love to virtually try on, clothes and see how they look on me. And, that would definitely increase the rate of conversion, that if I'm on the fence about buying. But yeah, so far I've seen it mainly for furniture. And it works. It's a bit kludgy. I mean, you got to play with it a little bit, but it's good. I mean, if you want to really see what that living room is going to look like in front of your couch and between your TV, it does it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's go into the last two big trends that we were thinking of. One, and you mentioned it a little bit, is that Amazon is starting to compete with its sellers. Actually, it started a while ago. So you see this Amazon Basics, and actually it's been kind of proven, right, in a hearing in in Senate or in the Congress or somewhere. And with documents that leaked in the press, that they did use the data of their third-party sellers to see what was selling well, and they used that to decide what products they would launch themselves, which is incredibly unethical. I mean, it's not like other stores don't do that, but you would think a company the size of Amazon would really try to, take good care of their third-party sellers.
They're really in it for themselves. Yeah, they're really in it for themselves. I mean, that's for sure. It's so bad that they stand in front of Congress practically and say, well, we have a policy that our own merchants aren't allowed to look at the third-party sellers' data. Mm-hmm. We can't guarantee that policy has always been followed, but we have that policy. So they legitimize it by saying, well, officially the policy is this. So there must be just a bad apple, who did it.
Right. Sure.
So they hide behind that. But look, in India, it's illegal to be the platform and the seller. I mean, they've explicitly outlawed that. And I think you have to. I mean, how can it be that Amazon Basics, but they create all these other brands in all these different categories. And so you don't even know it's Amazon. I mean, it's bad enough if you go in just the Amazon Basic and it's like, oh, that's the Amazon one, and here are all the others. But it's not even like that. It's like, here's the Amazon Basic. Here's the other brand that you don't know is Amazon. And here's the other brand that you don't know is Amazon. And they're all in the top 5. It's just silly.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah, that's bad. Okay.
And so that's why, even though it's so hard to build something off Amazon, and it takes so much time, and you're only going to get a fraction of the sales, but you kind of have to try. I mean, if you're in it for the long run, you have to do it, right? If you're just shooting products on Amazon and that's your game, and when it stops working, you'll stop doing it. that's okay, no problem. But if you really are trying to build a brand, I mean, they're very aggressive, and even Bezos always said, your profit is my opportunity.
Yeah, right. It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear, right? Or he said his margin, your margin is my opportunity. I mean, that it's clear.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one I wanted to cover is that over time, compliance is sort of catching up with some of these the e-commerce sellers. Well, in the EU, there have been a few changes in the past 1 or 2 years. The economic operators, such as the companies that operate warehouses, that deliver the packages and so on, have become liable in case of unsafe products. So that's a good step in the right direction. When it comes to drop shipping also, well, it's a form of e-commerce, right? So the sellers actually have to pre-register and make sure that they pay VAT. So they kind of close the loophole here. And then I think it was last week or 10 days ago, there's this big e-commerce platform called Wish that ran into trouble in France because the market surveillance authorities or the customs, I forgot, just tested, reviewed and tested a bunch of their products that were found, totally non-compliant and in some cases downright unsafe. And they forced them out of the Play Store and the App Store and even out of Google and so on as a good warning, right? Because the company was not reacting, just didn't care, didn't do anything about that. So do you see these kinds of things also in the US? I know that Amazon's been adding some extra requirements in some categories, and they banned some products like the infamous, what is it called? This sort of skateboards with batteries.
The ones that were lighting up
overboards.
Fire.
Yeah, the overboards. Yeah, you're right. They banned some products like this. I mean, they've been doing certain things, but do you see a lot of movement in that direction?
So I think that the U.S. is a little more live and let live. It doesn't mean it's not illegal, but California really is the state that has the most detail of the of the environmental laws and the requirements for products and things like that. And so, people are supposed to make it to California standards, but as you know, in the QA industry, QC industry, is a lot of the sellers are new to the industry. They don't know what all the requirements are,
right?
And they think also, since they're small, it's not affordable to do all those compliance measures, and they'll do it when they're larger.
Right.
And so far that's basically worked for them. I mean, there hasn't been any major crackdowns that I know. Amazon keeps tightening the screws, but in terms of what you need to do to get listed. But I don't think it's like the EU, where they've at the government level, cracked down on this yet. Right.
Well, that might be something coming later, but you're right. The US has always been a bit more relaxed than the EU. Yeah, in many cases, when it comes to compliance, the EU takes stronger steps, and then the US, in their own way, might follow, or might, yeah.
Well, and also because of each of our states, operates independently in these things. Right. So, for it to get to the federal government level to crack down on it, it's like, it would have to be something really, really bad that's going on. Right.
Yeah, it's a very different philosophy and different situation. Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. That was a nice episode. Nice to to cover the latest trends. So if I just recap, obviously a lot of growth in the past 2 years. The sellers have been trying to diversify away from Amazon. Amazon's been collecting more and more margin and extending their capabilities, and they're also actively competing against their sellers. A lot of nice stuff. it's come to a point where there's so much offer in a lot of product categories that really sellers are looking for a way to differentiate a little bit, maybe with eco-friendly, some kind of claim about eco-friendliness, or really developing their own new products that are different from anything currently on the market, maybe with a different feature or targeting a slightly different niche. Compliance, we just discussed. There have been some moves in the EU, maybe not much in the US, but yes, platforms like Amazon have been adding some requirements to, let's say, the high risk categories. And then finally, a lot of brands have been toying a bit, experimenting with augmented reality. And in some cases, it does bring a better experience, and there's certainly a little bit of a play factor. So we'll certainly see much more of that. Thanks a lot, Marshall. For the listeners, if you want to get in touch with Marshall, you simply go to shipitdone.com, right?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on again, and enjoyed the episode. So our warehouse is Ship It Done. So just www.shipitdone.com. Ship It Done.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks a lot, Marshall.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast brought to you by the Sofeast Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much, much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.